I remember that first wave and just thinking it was so incredible. The feeling of being lifted by it and then dropping off the backside of it. I'd never quite felt anything like that, and I remember being like, wow, that is just like incredible power. When you catch a wave, there's just that very seamless and almost gentle focus of just being present in that moment, and all the noise of the rest of your life just goes away. The wave is a one-off, unique entity. It takes literally the forces of the universe to create it, and then crashes into shore moments after you've finished playing with it. And then it's gone, it's not coming back. No two are ever quite the same. I get really excited about going surfing. It's really easy for me to get out of bed at 5 a.m. to go surfing. Yeah. Building a surfboard, or for me, a wave ski, is really challenging. It starts out as a big block of foam, and you're slowly honing it down into a very, very particular shape. A wave ski is a way of going surfing while sitting down. It's shaped like a surfboard on the bottom and kind of like a sit-on-top kayak on top. You paddle it with a kayak paddle, and it's got rails and fins and functions on the water like a surfboard is designed to do. This is the third wave ski that I've built. I keep making them, I think, because I can make better ones. And that's something a lot of people who build surfboards talk about, that they just get stuck down this rabbit hole of, okay, this one was great, but the next one will be even better. Making a wave ski takes a lot more time and energy in general, because there's so many more contours. You're carving footwells in and a seat, and the placement of that seat and those footwells can't move, whereas a regular surfboard, you can just move your feet to that sweet spot. And then to make it even more challenging, building a wave ski for an adaptive surfer, somebody with a disability or paralysis, you've got to meet that person where they are in terms of how much muscular function they have or don't have. I would love to go to the store and get the board I want, but that store doesn't exist. So the ability to build one myself means that I get to try new things and explore both surfing, but also building boards and marrying the two together to try and improve on both aspects of it. This is an old template of mine, and I'm gonna make a new one that's just slightly different. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the tail in to be slightly narrower. I'm gonna actually shorten the whole board as well. With this board, I hope to shed some weight off of it. I wanted to build something that would be easy and fun to surf in not very good waves, because we get a lot of just sort of mush burger waves on the west side of Canada that, bad winds and whatnot don't always make for great surf. So this is supposed to be something that's kind of like an off-season and not a perfect day kind of board. I was a pretty hyper kid. I'm the middle of 4 children, 2 brothers and a sister, and a lot to prove probably growing up.
Ever since Sam was really young, like 2, he has been a very determined, industrious, and curious person. Sam is a natural athlete and has always been that way. He just is able to sort of pick up a sport, figure out how to do it, and go with it.
Mountain biking for a lot of years was the thing that I enjoyed the most. I didn't use my brakes a whole lot, and I think for whatever reason, I just like to jump off the biggest stuff. And I think I probably started to identify with it as well as like the guy that did the big stuff. Go fast and jump off things was pretty much it. It was August 21st, I was 19. I crashed mountain biking. There was something that just a big drop that I've been eyeing up all summer, and Seemed like the right day, and I guess obviously it wasn't.
The phone rang, and it was his friend. She was at the hospital with Sam, and she said to me that Sam's had a very bad accident and that he couldn't feel his legs.
I broke 25 bones in one go, and 14 of them were my vertebrae.
It was a pretty hard thing to see. Sam was on a ventilator and unconscious, medically induced unconscious.
I was so close to dying. Like, I was so close. I mean, they called my family and told them to come say goodbye. I spent 125 consecutive nights in the hospital. So I have a complete spinal cord injury at the T4 level. So your back is, or your spine's divided into 3 sections: your cervical, your thoracic, and your lumbar. And so my third and fourth thoracic down. So I'm paralyzed from somewhere in the chest down.
It was hard to fathom how this kid who did everything in life was now going to manage. That was such an unknown. It's different for everybody, you know. As a mother, what is your number one job? It's to protect your children. And as much as I know that that was not about me, it still felt like something about my role that I hadn't done properly.
I didn't have the proper wire last time. I tried a guitar string, which looks the same, but couldn't handle the heat, and it snapped in about 10 seconds. So last time I just cut it out by hand, but this time I will be cutting it out by not hand. It's called a hot wire cutter. I built my own, and it is a transformer that basically just puts electricity through a thin little gauge wire that gets really hot. I don't think you can anticipate what you're going to be like if you're faced with something like this. I think if you had asked me, the day before, how would you take living life in a wheelchair, I think I, probably would have had some pretty morose things to say. But, somehow that's just not what happened. The first goal was just get out of the hospital, and then, get onto rehab, and then the goal was to get out of rehab and onto real life. And I remember I had this sort of mantra of life doesn't happen in a hospital. I need to get out of here because I'm not done. I need to go and do more with myself. All right, that looks good. Starting to look like something you could sit on. Today we're gonna finish off some of the footwells and the seat. We're just gonna kind of make sure that looks all good. It's nice to sleep on it, come back today with a fresh set of eyes, kind of make sure that it's looking good. When I got to rehab, within a day or two was kind of up wheeling around, and I remember the big goal for myself was just to be able to transfer from the floor back into my wheelchair, because I kind of had this attitude if I can do that, it means I can go out and do anything, because I can fall over and I can get back up and I can try again. I didn't want to stay where I was. I wanted to progress and get back doing the things that I love and spending time with my friends outdoors in nature. After, I think it was about 4 weeks or 5 weeks, something like that, and I got from the ground back into my chair, and then I did it again. And I literally went up into my hospital room, called my mom to come pick me up, and I didn't go back. That was it. I was done with it. As I start carving away, when I get to the end of this, I know I'm at the depth I want to be. I'm about to start carving the seat. It's not my favorite part. It's a lot of challenging kind of work with a very loud grinder that if you put your finger in, you'll lose it. And there's not a lot of safety protection. When I got out of rehab, the thing I was really excited to do was ski. I'd seen some footage of sit skiers and it just looked awesome. I was like, well, that's gonna be fun. Oh. Woo! I started racing and I did really well in the NORAM circuit, so the North American Race Series. Then kind of next step up, raced World Cup quite a bit, got to go all around the world, had some really great results there as well. And after, years of training and competing, I was able to qualify for the 2010 Paralympic Winter Games.
When Sam told me that he'd qualified for the Paralympics and the Canadian team, I was ecstatic and so proud. Because this, with anyone who's athletic, there's a pinnacle, right? He just had so many people rooting for him, and I think that's just a testament to the kind of person he is.
Sometimes I think about how amazing it would have been if I had have won. That's unfortunate, but pragmatic side of me says, who cares? Keep going. So this is my worst habit in the shop, and I do it all the time. I put a power tool on my lap, and then I plug it in. And it's not on. And it never seems to be. Once it was, but it fell off quickly. I stuck with ski racing for a number more years and then went to X Games and won in 2012. What was especially cool about that win is when you win an X Games medal, you win an X Games medal, and that's the same medal that any able-bodied person is competing for. In contrast to that, when you win the Paralympics, you win a Paralympic medal, not an Olympic medal. And I actually take quite a bit of offense to that because it really does diminish so many athletes who dedicate their entire life to their sport, who happen to have a disability, who are effectively, implicitly told that they're not as good as their Olympic counterparts. I had a great career. I think I retired at about as early of a stage in my career that I would have been comfortable with, but I felt like it was time to move on to some other things in life. Woo! I'm gonna be sore tomorrow, but stoked that it looks like we've done something today. We are deep underground in my arcade lair storage of some of my goodies here. Necessity breeds invention, and I wanted to go out and do things, and I knew that it would be possible because I could imagine a system at which it would be possible, and a lot of those things that I've built just weren't available. So it took me some initiative to learn how to build things, and I now have the confidence to sort of look at certain things, be like, oh, I can build that. So, that first big kind of project of being sit ski seats, there just wasn't anything that fit me that I thought was going to let me get to that next level. This is my sit ski. I competed in this for years, and I built the seat custom for myself, flex patterns, and some other guys in Colorado helped me do some custom work on the sort of liner for the seat, which is sort of like the insole of your ski boot. Lots of duct tape to keep it secure. So this is my flying chair. This is what I use to go paragliding. Had this for a number of years. Yeah, I've flown all over the Pemberton Valley with this thing and, done some good flights with it. So seen some cool sunsets in this thing. Basically, everything I do has got something adapted on it or something that I've kind of redesigned or reconfigured. Here's one of my wave skis I've built. Surfing without the right equipment, it's really physically demanding. Because on a wave ski, It's, people think it looks like a kayak, but I can't roll my board like a kayak. So if I flip over, I have to unstrap, flip the board over, and then get back on it, strap back in, and paddle into the place where I'm not gonna fall over again. This is actually a prototype that ended up just sort of causing some pressure problems on my back. The first wave skis that I saw really didn't work for me. They didn't offer enough support in my kind of core and back for me to even really sit on them and paddle, let alone catch waves. It is really neat to have this sort of memory bank of all these experiences and think that, without that sort of innovation and that attitude towards wanting to build it myself, that I wouldn't have all those memories. If I didn't have a sort of knack for it, I don't think I would have had nearly as successful of a skiing career. I don't think I ever would have gotten into surfing. This is probably the first piece of adaptive sports gear that I ever owned. This is the only hand bike I've ever had, so it's more than 10 years old. It's got a lot of miles on it. I don't love riding my hand bike. I do it because it's a fitness thing. I actually have a pretty high level of spinal cord injury. So I'm paralyzed from, my function kind of ends at about my armpits and down. So most people assume I'm paralyzed from the waist down, but I don't even have any stomach muscles for balance. I do think words are really powerful, and I do think it's important to choose them carefully and correctly and have them reflect reality. I don't think of like, oh, I'm handicapped. When people ask, I generally just say I'm a wheelchair user, because that's pretty literal and not actually a reflection of me. I think a lot of people end up in really miserable places in life after a spinal cord injury because they're not given the opportunity to pursue that self-image of who they believe they are and what they want in life. Nothing's easy, right? Shy of going downhill. There's certainly times where emotionally it's really challenging. I get really frustrated when people offer help to me in some capacity that I clearly don't need. People come and ask if they can help push me in my chair. People, really awkwardly try and hold a door open for me. And I remember in the first year of my injury, I had a girl out on a date, and the server asked her what would I eat. And if there's anything more morbid than that, right? I mean, ooh. Those things really frustrate me because they're a constant reminder that, the general public that I interface with on a daily basis looks at me as being really different and sort of half a person, or they've imposed what they think I can't do upon me.
People see someone in a chair, especially at his age. It's generally not about wanting to help. It's about feeling sorry for him. And he has no ability to deal with someone feeling sorry for him.
People look at people with injuries like they often just have low expectations. On the ski hill, people come up to me and go, "Oh boy, I saw you come down. You were so quick." Like, yeah, no shit. Like, I'm a professional athlete. This is what I do. What do you do? But I don't come there to their business and go, "Oh, look at you being an accountant. You're so much better at being an accountant than me." But they feel as it's appropriate to do it to me.
I don't think anything stops or slows Sam down. He always figures it out.
Meg's great. Meg is absolutely amazing. We started dating a little over 4 years ago.
We met just sitting at a bar. I could just tell he was a man that had goals, and I really liked that.
There's a bit of like a yin and a yang thing going on there as well. Like, I think I'm sort of like this, bit more brazen character, and Meg is much more calm and calculated. I like to do everything fast, and Megan's really good at like taking her time and really thinking things through.
I think one of the things I like the most about our relationship is that he pushes me. In sport, he definitely pushes me, but in life, he pushes me as well.
We've traveled through South America together. We've been to Northern Africa surfing. We went to New Zealand, Hawaii, Australia, Sri Lanka, and Indonesia on an epic surf trip for about 4 months.
Surfing is an equalizer in that sense because he can be out there and be just like everyone else, and so it's definitely created accessibility to like relationships and the communities that you create through sport and through surfing.
I think I've done a really good job in life of not having my injury define me, but I can't pretend like I'm not dragging something, baggage around with me, so to speak, right? But there's so many things that I've had an opportunity to do with Megan that I wouldn't have had an opportunity to do, I don't think, if she wasn't so helpful, and so just awesome.
I know life is harder for Sam. I feel like he just has always seemed like such a capable person. I almost have to remind myself that things are difficult. When you live with someone and they're your partner day to day, it would be exhausting to be inspired by them every day. I'm most inspired when he takes his own situation and tries to figure out how to help other people because of it.
Being in the west coast of Canada here, we're a long way away from anyone else who can build a board for somebody with a disability. I think about those barriers to entry that other people like me have. One of the biggest barriers that people have to that exposure, I think, is just gear. It's allowing other people who want to do it one less hurdle to get over so that they can do it. I know, a lot of people through the community of people with spinal cord injuries who would love that feeling of being out in the water. I don't think it's hard to convert people to becoming surfers. I think once they get out and have a try, they're either going to really dislike it or really love it. I'm sort of drawing what I've done so far in an effort to not make any critical mistakes here. Some of the steps feel a bit repetitive and just kind of like straight up labor. Like none of it's particularly easy, and it's pretty awkward to do it from a wheelchair to build these things too, because I can't stand over top of a board the way I'd like to be able to, and so it is a pretty significant challenge building everything from a seated position. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in the process. I mean, right from conception, a bad design will always be a bad design, no matter how well it's built. And then the flip side of that being, a great design but really poorly built might not surf nearly as well as it should. It might break, it might fall apart, it might just feel like a log in the water. And to build those great designs, I think you need a real attention to detail and a real dedication to a methodology. Each board that I build, I think about what process I've committed to on that board and how to refine it to make it easier on me for the next board. The first board took me 3 times as long as the second board, and sort of half as long as the next board, and hopefully this one takes even less. Oh, I need a breather. My time when I'm building things is kind of divided by just bouts of hunger. I sort of realize I'm starving, I better go eat, and I look at my watch and realize I haven't had a meal in 7 hours. I go, oh, it's about time to eat now. So far, it's coming together. Coming together, coming together, coming together.
We're kind of at the point now where it's just like finishing the rails off.
Jesus, there's just so much foam. We put up some lights so that as I get close to finishing the board, I can see any imperfections in my contours and my shape, because the lights will cast a shadow anywhere where there's a bit of a valley in the foam.
Could you turn the back room light on for me? Just so I have a little, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, those look good. I'm now putting some subtle shape and structure to the bottom of the board, and that helps to kind of promote certain ride characteristics. A little bit of concave in the front of the board should help it go a little bit faster, and a little bit of V in the tail should help you go edge to edge once you're moving along. The bow. To come at it and start to finish in a weekend is pretty proud of that. It's pretty neat. So the next thing to do are to mark out fins and inserts for foot straps, and the backrest will go onto it eventually. And then I'm gonna hand it off to Rosen for a bit of glass. Glassing's really hard to do exceptionally well because the sort of standard baseline for glassing really is perfection. You've got this fiberglass cloth, and then you've got this resin. You lay the cloth out over the board, and then you pour the liquid resin on, and the idea is that you have to smooth it out and move it around to get just the right amounts and thicknesses all over the place, all over the board, and then effectively let it dry, let it cure. And then sand any imperfections out, and yeah, there's a whole process to it as well. All right, buddy, board number 3, what do you think?
Amazing, great job. All the actual like hand shaping that you did too, it's like extremely symmetrical as well, which is kudos to you, dudes.
I've glassed some boards before, and sitting in a wheelchair is really a challenging way to glass a board because you inevitably have to use both your hands to do the glassing and to move you around the room. And when your hands are covered in resin and now you've got to move your wheels and it's dripping on the floor and you're rolling through it. So Rosen is going to be doing it on my behalf. Rosen's never glassed a wave ski before, but I've seen lots of the other surfboards that he's built, and I feel really confident that he's going to have no problem with it.
This is the stuff that is basically going to strengthen the board and make sure that the foam doesn't get bonked or clonked along the way. It's gonna also help it be water sealed as well, which is what we want when making a surfboard. He thinks outside of the box on how to make things. Like, you have to be creative. Like in his situation, he's in a chair. You know, there's certain regulations that he can actually do. So when he thinks outside of the box, it really does bring a whole new light to shaping, I think. I'm now currently just under 200 boards for glassing. After your first 100, you kind of know what's up and you know where you're going with it. And then after, you know, your next couple hundreds, you really understand what the hell is going on and what you should and shouldn't be doing. And then, yeah, hopefully by the time that I get to 1,000, I can do this with my eyes closed. Okay, we're gonna mix some resin up. We're definitely phase 2 out of 3 phases for sure.
I trust Rosen. I think he's gonna come out with something pretty cool here.
I get to use 2 hands the whole way. Sam can only use 1 hand for the majority of things while his other hand is stabilizing him. I have a lot of, you know, muscles in my back that like all work, and so when I get tired, like I can like shift over to a different muscle or find a new position. He can't. But then like the determination, the skill, and the mindset of it is what's really pushing him forward to making this giant craft. He won't stop until like he's seen something, mastered something, perfected something too. It's just that Sam Danniels too. It's amazing to see the way that he has to approach the surf. It's a cool thing, it's a powerful thing. People notice like right away in the water. They're just like, there's some dude who is determined as all heck to get out there and to do what he loves. I was nervous when the project was approached to me, but now I'm excited. Okay, crew. Yeah, pretty much there. Just got to babysit now for the next little bit. And I think we're all good.
But you nailed it. Like, I don't know how you do a better job than that.
There used to be this like old stigma where like you had to surf these particular boards, and now it's an open community. It's the natural way to just be on this amazing force like a wave. No one really cares about how you ride it. It's just the act of doing it, and to see a smile or just the pure stoke of just seeing like this raw thing just peel off in the distance and be like, I want to go out there. And like, who's with me? It's inviting, you know, it's invited to all people to try surfing. What's it gonna look like? New boat,
look
who
at
dis? New boat, who dis?
Looks sweet.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
So obviously, yeah, the foot welds and
looks
stuff
so
like
good.
that, there's still like some things in there that like
yeah,
aren't sanded
sure.
perfectly.
That's
But otherwise though, yeah, and it's light too.
Looks great, man. Looks so good.
Cheers. Huzzah, thank you, good sir. What a great fun time.
Yeah.
Can't wait to go
looks good,
surfing
man.
with you
Yeah,
on this
cannot
thing.
wait, for sure. It's so awesome to have someone like Rosen who is so willing to kind of step outside what he is used to and what he knows, and kind of flex out on some of his skills and learn some new ones. And I think we generally agree on, you know, the directions that it should all be headed. So we haven't had any problems. We're still getting along. We're still friends.
That was a lot more than I was expecting, for sure. It was all this inner concaves that made things so hard to then totally take everything away from a machine, because I couldn't even put a machine in here properly. I could only like go around this top surface area, but everything in here was all by hand. And I had to like coat the both seat and footrests like 2-3 times in order for them to be strong. So every time I put a coat on it, then there's some new sanding going on to it.
I think Rosen probably could do the next one in half the time, just based on all the lessons he learned along the way. Hopefully we build lots of these together and it gets easier for each of us and they get better as we go as well. This backrest is kind of the last big key step until we're into going surfing mode. The backrest's important because where my injury is in my spinal cord means that not only do my legs not work, but my abs don't work either. So if I sit on the floor, I basically just fall over. I'm not particularly well balanced. So the idea is that the backrest is kind of like, you know, maybe an analogy is like a ski boot. You sit in it instead of on it. This is sort of the hardest part, is coming up with just the initial shape. But eventually you just gotta cut the damn thing. 23 divided by 2 is 11 and a half. I started building this board in the fall and basically broke for like Christmas holidays, went off and went on a surf trip to Morocco. When I got back, I got the flu. And when I recovered from the flu, about 3 days later, I was skiing and I had a binding fail and I hit my head, and that gave me a concussion. And I was kind of out of it for about 5 or 6 weeks. And the timing of my concussion recovery was essentially the day that the economy shut down for COVID. Good enough. I am so excited to go surfing. It's been by far the longest period of not surfing since I started surfing. So it's gonna be really nice to get back in the water. We're heading to Rob's shop in North Van. Rob is kind of a living legend. He's like a mentor to me, and he was sort of the first introduction I had to building things out of carbon fiber and fiberglass and that sort of thing. Rob's taught me so much just about building things, so I think when I take a finished product to him and show him, I get really excited about it because I know that he gets excited as well, and I feel like on some levels it shows that he's a success in his own way of being that teacher. Want to check it out?
Yeah, let's have a look. Well, all I can say is I've taught you awfully well.
Thank you.
Look at it, it's a good job. Sam, you're getting better at this. I've been shaping for 35 years at least. You know, so this is where we do our thing. We build windsurfers, fix bikes, anything out of composite materials. The biggest thing is I can see, you know, how Sam, like from his first shape to this one, how much it's gone more to performance, and his shapes are actually amazingly good. You know, I can't imagine having to do this from a wheelchair. He blows my mind. Well, you've done a great job with this backrest. It's really nice.
I can't tell you, like, the amount of appreciation I have for how much work goes into little pieces, yeah. You'd think it would be so much easier. Just like, okay,
I always
glue some foam together and wrap it in carbon. How hard could that be? Yeah, it took me way more time than I thought it would, which I guess is just the nature of all things.
Everything that is involved in this thing has to be right on for him, because if he's sitting too far forward, it changes the design of what he needs to do for the board. You know, the strength of this thing has to be really strong too, because he's strapped into this thing, and unlike a surfer where they just come off the board on a leash, Sam is still in this thing, and he doesn't really eject. So this seat back has to hold his weight while he's going through the white water, and he's just getting ripped around, all his body weight's here, and it's got to hold up. This one looks like you could take this in quite a big wave compared to your last one.
I guess time will tell.
Yeah, so you got to give it a shot, but the pinched in rails here is really cool.
I'm my own biggest critic for sure, but I have such huge respect for Rob, and he is such a great craftsman when it comes to surf stuff and windsurfing and everything foam composite related, so it is a big accolade to hear him kind of give it a thumbs up.
It's been fun to see somebody with these kind of skills put something like this together. This is Sam making exactly what suits himself and what will be a benefit for other guys in the same situation.
It looks really good. I'm really happy with the way some of the new kind of design elements that I wanted to see play out. You know, they look all as they should in my mind, so it's time to take it in the water and see how it goes. We're at Cox Bay in Tofino, and we're about to take the board I built for its inaugural surf. I designed this board with kind of days like today in mind, so hopefully it's the right tool for the job. I'll be feeling out just its balance points, how well it glides in the water, how it likes to pick up waves, and how my body and my movement on the board have to sort of react to the design elements that it naturally has. Trying out new boards is always kind of exciting because you're never quite sure what you're gonna get. It's a perfect day to try out something new.
Just went surfing on the new board. It was good. Waves are small, but there's lots of them, and it did pretty great. All the sort of volume is on the board, felt really good. This board, I flattened out the rocker a little bit, and the bonus of that is it's a little bit faster, but the downside is there's not quite as much forgiveness in the sort of crest of the wave. So it'll be interesting to see how it handles when it's into something just a little bit bigger. It's got all the properties that I was kind of aiming for, and it's way lighter. I figured out some ways to shed some weight off of it. You know, like it's a good board. It feels like a good board. It's really addictive to make things that you get to then take into the ocean and play around on. It's a lot more fun than making candles or something like that, that's for sure.
No matter what comes your way in life, you deal with it or you don't. You take what you get because you don't have a choice. Life happens and you make the best that you can of it. And in some cases, it's extraordinary.
Living with passion is important. I hope my future holds many more years of surfing. It's activities in life that are like that that make me feel really good about who I am. We all have an ability to do some pretty amazing things. I can't change my injury, but I get to decide what I can do with my injury.